All right, let's rock and roll, man. This is episode 2 of the Chairmen.
Dose of the Chairmen, dude. And we're on a couch this time. Not in super uncomfortable chairs. Those chairs in Colombia were rough.
Those chairs should come with a chiropractor. Yeah, they were awful.
Bro, this is, I am much more happy being the chairman on this couch.
Agreed. We do have to figure out the lighting. We'll get it right, but
Yeah.
yeah, man, that was an awesome first episode.
Yeah.
I think we were both like probably blacked out because of the stimulus of the event, being kind of out of our normal flow. But yeah. I loved being able to kick off the podcast right from that event, like in the heart of it.
I thought that was perfect, right? It's just like, and what was cool about it is like, as you looked out those doors, there was just all this like chaos, but like good chaos happening. So it was
they were saying too that they could hear us just like laughing, and especially when we lost our mind. Dude,
that's awesome. Dude.
That blooper, like you couldn't plan that.
No,
like
dude.
If you were like, hey, and we want it to be super fun and like funny.
Yeah, try
like,
this.
Like so, you just go like you're gonna start it and then bomb. And then everybody will lose their mind. But I love that it worked out that there wasn't too much of a lag, that we could just keep that in the episode.
Yeah, no, it was great, dude. It was perfect.
And for those of you that haven't, if this is your first episode, go to the first episode.
Yeah, and just listen to the first like minute and a half.
I know, right? It's almost like the hook.
Yeah, it's
like what's this about? Like, don't worry about it.
Don't worry about it.
It's gonna be a blast.
Yeah. I bet you don't stop listening to it after that intro. So,
what I'm stoked about in our working relationship, as well as our friendship, our partnership, is to kind of update our listeners. Here's where we're at. I am the CEO of MyCore, have been for coming up on 7 years, and have an amazing team, super proud of the organization. I've always kind of been waiting and watching and hoping, that a Ned Arick would come into my life.
Yeah, you're like the first person in my life that's ever said that. They're typically trying to
the other trying to repel you. Yeah. Right? Yeah. Well, I was hoping to attract you.
Yeah. Maybe the law of repulsion actually worked.
Right. Exactly.
Which we'll talk about today.
And that's what I was kind of thinking we would use as a like case in point, right?
Yeah.
So here we are. You probably know the title of today's episode. In so many words, it is the Law of Repulsion. Mm-hmm. Stop attracting and start repelling. Yeah, I think. Yeah. Can you? We'll work our magic. But what we wanted to talk about is something that is sort of contrarian in nature.
Yeah.
But I thought we would do it maybe in the context of our relationship, and the way that we got to know one another, came into relationship and business, and now with you as the president of MyCore, continuing, I think I still have a job as the CEO. There was a moment when we were there in Colombia having our executive team meeting, and you were just like at the head of the table, and I like purposely like sat under the table, and I was over at the kids' table, and you're just like OKRs. You're like so presidential. I was like, I think I'm gonna go. And I really did have to go to the bathroom. So I was like, I'm literally gonna leave. Yeah. And it was awesome. So the team is fully embracing you. Your style is so complementary, I guess you could say, to mine. I'm saying all that to say that I would imagine there are listeners that are thinking, yeah, I've been wanting to become more attractive to talent. I've been wanting to build my employer brand. I've been wanting to be more attractive to prospects. And I know people that are listening are in all different walks. Maybe you're president, CEO, top of the heap, or you're an SDR that's saying, hey, I'm in an entry level position right now, but I'm working my way up, whether it's because you're a young guy or because you're kind of starting over and learning a new industry or kind of low on the totem pole, but have aspirations of of climbing that ladder. So I wanted to frame out this topic around our interaction because I think it's a prime example of like attracting you to my core and me to you and your style and your leadership by way of repelling everyone else, everything else. So tell me, because the other thing that too, just not to be too
and thanks to our
long-winded.
sponsors, Rain.
Yes,
we drink a rainbow sherbet.
Make it rain, bro. So you good?
Yeah, just choked on my own spit here.
That's the worst. That happened earlier in the episode I did.
Oh, dude.
So what I think is exciting is that, we are not podcasters. We are executives of a company, entrepreneurs, leaders, fathers. And then in these moments, things get said, like you throw something out and I'm like, yo, the chairman, that's a good topic, and vice versa. So I think I had said something during the event from the front of the room, which led to this.
Yeah.
And I just would love to hear your take, because you have so much experience. You have this following, like in the real world and on social media. And I just kind of said one of the things that I said. Maybe you'd heard that before, but it seemed to, in that moment, like really resonate with you.
Yeah. No, I think just from the perspective, when you think about, like, everyone here has heard about the law of attraction, right? Everyone, maybe not everyone's watched the movie, but I have, like, The Secret, and you've got that guy sitting in his recliner just dreaming, and then all of a sudden he's in a Ferrari, and it's like
checks show up.
And I think there's a lot to be said around, our first episode being on culture, right? And I think that people think that there are certain aspects, and maybe this is because of like Silicon Valley and all of those things, but they think that culture is the foosball table and the PS5 in there, and people just crushing, it's just like kombucha. Right. And obviously, as we talked about yesterday, it's a lot more than that, or last week, it's a lot more than that. Yeah, so I think the biggest thing that I see across the board is this, like, people want people to gravitate towards them, right? They build this persona, they talk a big game, they rent luxury cars that aren't theirs and take photo shoots, they talk about how amazing everything is. Like, I even just think about the perspective of like just a company like careers page, right? It shows them all at their company event. It shows them all in Mexico and all of these great perks and things of that nature. And it's like, because we want to attract this certain type of people, when in reality, when I think about like how I've kind of become who I am, how we've met, a lot of it is because we are
repulsive.
Yeah.
I hadn't conjugated the word that way yet,
but it works.
It
works, dude, because it is. It's like you actually want the wrong people
to stay
away. And I think what happens is, like, when you start to look at like the average tenure of AEs and SDRs and VPs and all of these things, it's like you look at these titles and like the average tenure of a VP of sales is like 14 months.
I know.
And it's like, why?
Right.
It's because they went into a position in a company that it did not match or align with their values. Right. They did not align with the mission or the vision, but the dollar signs aligned with what they needed to continue their life. Yep. When in reality, if that company had waited or had maybe in a sense said, hey, this is who we are not for, then that person, probably still would have applied, but they would have had a better opportunity to, go out there. And I think about like social media, like my content is very like, it's not exclusive, but it's not super inclusive, right? Like I talk specifically about like successful people who have gone and done big things and feel empty, right? It's like, if you have never made, more than $50,000 in your life, you're not going to resonate with that. And it's not saying that I'm repelling those people, but it's those people are going to like watch from a distance.
Well, they're not even picking it up, right?
Yeah.
So there is some real similar to the law of attraction, there's some real physiological, psychological, biological aspects to this. And I'm no doctor or psychiatrist or psychologist, but just from the reading I've done and the development that I've done, and also just like time in grade with a lot of people. You know, my background was in network marketing. Actually, that's where I cut my teeth for 7 years, from 2009 to 2016. And then I had 2 years where I was kind of balancing my career with Legal Shield and forming the first version of my core, which then led to like the official established October 2nd, 2018. So I had really like 9 full years where there were a lot of people that I was interacting with.
Yeah.
You know, speaking on stages, up to 10,000 people, going on like weekend trainings where I was headlining and keynoting, you know, hundreds of people. So there was like this onslaught of human beings that I had to constantly be around.
Yeah.
And, you know, you learn the niceties and the skills. And I mean, it got kind of weird there for a little bit too, where I'm like, you know, signing people. There's this book called The Profiles of Success, you know, and I'm like way in the back of the book. You know, like my last name's Bourne. It was because it was like by how much money you made.
Yeah.
And I was like pretty low in the totem pole. But because there was some whatever it factor and I was younger, you know, people would like line up. I mean, that's the point where I'm like signing the book and taking pictures. And I remember it just draining me.
Yeah.
And I was like, Justin Bieber, I understand now, man. I got you, bro.
Yeah, dude, paparazzi.
Right. And I was like, guys, no pictures.
Yeah.
You know, then the problem too is that would get to your head a little bit where like you'd go to the grocery store and, you know, you'd be like, guys, no pictures.
Yeah, they're like, I don't know who you are, bro. It's like the LinkedIn influencers that are just like, they're famous there, and then it's just like, hey, dude, no one knows who you are. But I think that's like a good, that's a really good point to make, because I think a lot of times people do see like quick success, and, you know, they see this like, hey, all of these people are coming to me. And I think that in my life, what I've found is that when I accept all of these insights and opinions and people into my life, what it does is it starts to scatter.
Right.
And I think in companies, and if you're listening to this and you're a founder, one thing that I've always said when I've worked with companies is your first 10 clients are your most important customers. Right. Because they're either going to derail you from where you're heading because they want this, that, and the other, or they're going to push you in the direction that you want and make your product better. And I think that's very similar as a person, right? It's and I'm not even trying to say like, oh, you know, you're the subset of the 5 people you hang out with. It's just a matter of like, if you are accepting praise and admiration, and you're accepting that like these people that aren't where you are, right? And aren't ahead of you, and you're listening to the people that are saying, hey, I wouldn't do it that way, or you're listening to people that are giving you insights into things they've never done, but they watched a YouTube video 3 days ago that told them exactly how to do it. Now they're just regurgitating it. You now are taking that in, and it's kind of giving you like brain froth.
Completely, because we have come through the age of information, right?
Yeah.
We're way beyond the age of information, and AI has taken everyday people and created this infinite intelligence in the palm of their hand. I mean, this is the equivalent of what Think and Grow Rich talks about. And because of that, there's a danger there. There's a warning, because now, although wisdom is something that's timeless, we've entered, I believe, the world according to Nathan, fully the age of wisdom, or re-entered it, where the top leaders, the movers and shakers that are going to be breaking through the noise are the ones that are going to be breaking through the noise, right?
Yeah.
So even down to like the way my core operates. In 2018, when I was out touting that we were service as a software and not software as a service, people thought I was crazy. And this is 7 years ago. This isn't 70 years ago. Like, you're not building tech. You're not building a platform. Like, we've never written a line of code. I don't even know how you would do that. Like, Where do you go to write code?
Well, now you go to like ChatGPT.
Well, that's the thing. And here's a prime example. I mean,
Yeah.
you snap your fingers. I believe in the next handful of years, you will be able to ask ChatGPT, build me a platform with single sign on, that does UX, and it'll be like,
There are already platforms out there that do that.
Right.
Like Lovable is out there that
no
you can
code.
literally know. Yeah.
It's prefab, pre-built. Well, here's the point. We still have to navigate all of that.
Yeah.
We still have to manage all of that and have our head not explode.
Yeah.
So the leaders that are seeking wisdom, not knowledge, that are developing their who and why skills, not putting all their chips on what and how. You need what and how, and that's what makes our partnership, our relationship work. Because I'm a who, why guy, you're a what, how guy. I'm a visionary, you're an integrator, as Traction would put it in EOS. Well, when you're attracting the right people, you need to be looking for people that have wisdom, that don't just have knowledge. Like, assumably, you knew what the job entailed. Like I expected that. Why would you reach out to me? And I think that's why the content you're putting out, the content that we're creating, is so important, because you're kind of asking and seeing and testing whether people can live in the nuance and read between the lines and pick up what we're putting down without overtly stating it.
Yeah.
And that is the law of repulsion, because what will happen, it kind of goes back to the point I was making about the like physiological, is that your RAS filter, your reticular activation system, this is the way that people will go car shopping, right? And they test drive the black Jeep, and then they see it everywhere, and they're like, oh my God, everybody has a black Jeep. And it's like, it was always there.
Yeah.
You just didn't pick it up, right?
Exactly.
So some things you can't unsee after you've seen it. You can't unfeel it. You can't unhear it.
Yeah.
So I think that instead of putting out content or putting out an energy or putting out a vibe that attracts people by being general with it, or being right, by being like dull.
Yeah.
And here's a prime example. Like, you want sharp people. Well, you can't be sharp with dull content. You need edgy content, because there's an edge to something that's sharp, right? You don't cut into a steak with a butter knife. You don't cut into something that's tough and durable. So that's where I think, in this next stage of business and leadership and influence, really at large, it's going to come down to the people that are edgy. And edgy is not the same as polarizing. You don't have to be a dick. You don't have to say crazy, controversial, I think, like, cancelable shit.
Yeah, because that's the thing, is like, I think what's interesting is you start to see people go the complete opposite direction, because they're like, oh, I need to be contrarian because I need to stand out.
Right.
Like, what I think we ran into is like,
I like Kanye West, just for the record, but like, he done lost his mind.
Yeah, no, that boy is crazy, dude. Like, there's conspiracy theories that he's not even real, dude. Is it Yee?
Yeezy? I don't know.
Yeezy? I don't know what he is.
Jesus walks.
Yeah, something like that's how I remember him. But it's like, we had this like time in like the tech world where it was like, technology was edgy. It was like, man, software as a service. Oh, cool. Like, I work for a software company. I remember getting into it in 2015 and it being like, dude, you're going to go work for tech, dude.
You're in the future.
Yeah, that's amazing. And it felt like that too, right? And then what happened is, and this happens with every industrial revolution, is that cars become normal, right? It's not like, oh my God, you made a Model T and I'm riding a horse anymore. It's like, oh, we're just continuing to iterate on this thing that gets us from point A to point B a lot faster. And I think that's what we ran into. And so what happened is, like, you have this sea of sameness. And in these organizations, and, whether you're starting a design firm or you're starting an AI company, they all look the same. They all sound the same. They're all speaking to the same people with the same message. And I think the biggest thing that we're running into now, and I think a lot of it has to do with, we're post-ZERP era, we're actually in a place where it costs money to make money again, where it used to not. And now you actually have to stand out, right? You have to be in...
What is ZERP, by the way?
Zero interest rate period.
Oh, okay.
Something like that. Yeah.
I've not heard that term.
Yeah, it's like...
Cool kids. It's a cool kids term.
And I just mess it up. So
we're going to get
cool.
like a glossary, I think, that's like the cool kids glossary. Because like you'll throw out these tech terms. I'm like, I have no idea what you just said. I thought you said scissor.
Yeah, I did,
like,
actually.
What did you get?
Yes, that is scissor for sure. But yeah, it's like
right.
we're in
the
this,
money's not loosey goosey.
Yeah, like investors
now.
are now looking and saying like, hey, is this a viable product that's going to make our money back? And here's what's interesting is like obviously I've just recently gone through an acquisition within the past 2 years, and when you're talking to these investors, like even private equity, sure they're looking at like the economics of everything, and they're making sure you've got your systems in place, and everything's where it needs to be, but even more than that, they were like having conversations with us. Like they met with all of our employees, right? And I don't know if every firm does this, but the two firms that, came in and acquired us, like they went and had conversations with our warehouse managers. They had conversations with our office
That's
managers.
wise.
Yeah, very, right? Yeah. Because it's like, I think there is this, we're in this stage right now where the person matters, the people matter again. And, we can't just speak from a company. Right? It's like the person at the top or the people inside of the organization are the ones that are actually driving the revenue. And the thing is, they always have. Yep. But we went away from that. And so I think this like law of repulsion is what you're saying is like, no, we're not going to be general anymore. We're going to speak in such a tonality and with such purpose that the people that are on that wavelength are going to catch it. The people that are above or below, they're not going to be able to. And it's just like a dog whistle. It's like, I can't hear it
right.
because I don't have that
ear
hertz level, that ear for it. I don't, and I'm not listening for it. Yeah. But the thing is, and this is where I think companies can really, really start to model this. And I'd love for you to talk about like MyCore specifically and what you've done, but where companies can really
Don't
model
tell me
this.
With a good time.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Oh, Nathan's talking about MyCore again?
Way.
Is they can really start to hone in on what their voice is. And if they can capture that, and your voice, by the way, is not your product, it's not your features, it really isn't even the results that your product provides. It's the voice of the collective and your organization coming together and kind of singing in harmony of this like, hey, this is who we are.
Dude, you're speaking my language.
I know.
That's like, oh, I get so pumped about that. Yeah, man. I mean, yes, and yes. I'd love to unpack that a little bit because one thing I think that when people start to people with people, they think it's all art form.
Yeah.
And they can even get a little weird about it, you know, like, okay, like I get it, Nathan, I get it, Ned, like I'm going to put my like people power, to the test. I'm going to lead with who? Like I read your book because, it's going to be published.
It's going to be out.
And I get it. And then they start acting weird all over again.
Yeah.
There's a caveat to all this, which is that like you have to be authentically you and unlikely.
But what is the thing is, I want to pause here because that's something to go deep on because how many people actually authentically know who the hell they are?
You're taking the words out of my mouth.
Yeah.
So the thing people want to be part of is the journey of youing, which is ridden with good, bad, ugly. Mm-hmm. And like authenticity, vulnerability, all these buzzwords that we try to create like a path into who we are is still sort of packaged and curated, and that's not the raw material.
Yeah.
The raw material is what people want because they themselves are raw material, right? And it's like, hey, I see the humanity in you. And then also recognizing, like you kind of mentioned earlier, kind of like the Industrial Revolution, or thinking about like what Henry Ford did to cars. I love one of the quotes there that gets tossed around, which is, if people asked Henry Ford what they wanted, or if he asked them what they wanted, they would have said faster horses, right? So he had to imagine an entire new world. And then interestingly enough, Ford and all of us have kept the language horsepower in the engine, and there's no horses, right? I mean, it's I don't know how engines work, but it's something not horse. I know there's not horses in there. Like that, I know.
I'm pretty sure of that one.
So if you're thinking of this vehicle, you're thinking of this torque, you're thinking of this longevity, like, well, you need people power the same way you would need horsepower.
Yeah.
And people power isn't just virtue signaling. It's not altruism. There's a science to it, the same way that the carburetor does what the carburetor does and the spark plug does what the spark plug does. And I think where people maybe chalk it up is like, oh, that's virtuous, so we'll put that on a plaque, we'll put that on our website, we'll start our offsites with that. But it's like, no, this has to be systemically living and breathing.
Yeah.
And there's like books for this, like anything by John C. Maxwell.
Yeah, oh, for sure.
Read.
Yeah.
Everything by John C. Maxwell.
Yeah, should read.
Yeah.
Read multiple times.
And exactly, read over and over and over again. And you could call this leadership, but even that could be a bit of a miss too. I love what you said a moment ago about people that are above it. That matters too.
That does.
This is not some like special language that only the canines can hear when the MyCore whistle goes off. It's not weird. It's actually just defining very like clearly who we are. So one thing that I try to get out early is I grew up dirt poor. I'm the fourth of 9 children. I am white trash. Like, don't get it twisted. But I'm like Ocean City, Maryland beach white trash, which is kind of like, is that driftwood?
Yeah.
It's like, no, that's just a bottle.
It's where
of
you
beer.
can play rich or homeless, like surfer bum or homeless.
And you don't know, right? Because the same guy that owns Secrets is sitting there wearing a t-shirt and board shorts.
Yeah.
So you wouldn't have known. And then, as my story goes, I worked my tail off, to go to an Ivy League school and to wrestle Division I. So now I'm amongst the elites, really, like the creme de la creme of society. Most of them are douchebags, right? And I have had to learn. I'm 36, so literally half my life was one way. The other half of my life has been the other way. So I'm like this walking paradox. Why am I saying this? Because that's not that different than you, Ned.
Yeah.
Right?
No.
And there's a reason why we've connected at this moment in time, in this moment in life, in this moment in our journees. Because if I hadn't been putting out there, not to the universe, but like literally on LinkedIn.
Yeah, I was going to say, that's just social media.
You literally uploaded it on LinkedIn. Like, that's not the universe.
Yeah, no, you doing a TikTok video isn't putting it out into the universe.
Right. And you saw it. Some reason it caught your eye. I'm assuming maybe I was here in the studio. I don't know. I don't even think you can. You've said before that you couldn't even tell me, right? It was just whatever. It was a flash in the. But to your point, there was a very specific energy that I was emitting and emoting, right? And it wasn't thoughts; it was feelings.
Dude. I think that's the key. Is like, because everyone puts words out there. Right, every single person. You are no different than any other founder.
Plus, ChatGPT is gonna spit you out beautiful words, and I know I can. That's a fucking chat. I know those words. Yeah. Those aren't feelings because Chat can't feel. It can think, but it can't feel.
And it's like it's this piece of like where, as an organization, as an entrepreneur, as a human, you differentiate yourself when you are being authentic to who you are.
Did you say being or doing?
Being.
Oh, there you go. keep it going.
Human doings. But it's like when you're being authentic to who you are. And here's the thing. There might be people listening to this, because I had to go through this on my journey, that have to deconstruct and figure out who you are, because you've been attached to something for so long, and you've been doing these things to be in this crowd, or fit into this place. So now you're speaking from a place of inauthenticity. Right. And people, like, that's the thing about human beings. People get a gut feeling about inauthentic people. Yep. Right. And I mean, we had a conversation a couple of weeks ago with a guy that I literally got off the phone. I was like, fuck that guy.
Yeah, I hate that. I currently hate that guy.
Yeah.
I've been hating him since. Yeah. He'll randomly pop in my head. I'm like, I hate that guy.
Yeah. Dude, but it is. It's like,
don't be that guy.
There was just this inauthentic, like, wavelength that he was putting out there. And it's like, the thing is,
and by the way, it wasn't because he was like a jerk or smug. If you are a jerk,
and that's your authentic thing, because, like, dude, most people, I bet you, who know me know that I am kind of a dick. Like,
I'm glad you said it.
You were about to say it? No. But it's authentic to I think just even saying it, I'm like, shit, man.
No,
maybe don't be a dick.
But it's an edge. It's an intensity. And look, here's a prime example, man. And we can let people in a little on the narrative here. So you come out to Columbia, right? Mm-hmm. I've got a room full of my core people, and these are good quality people, right? Yeah. And they're not your normal, like, bros, right? Mm-mm. This isn't. I mean, if you watch the videos,
we have like ex-CEOs in the room,
right? And we've got just like really good normal people that have maybe had backgrounds, like, take Cheryl for example. Cheryl was a server at a restaurant, California Pizza Kitchen in Annapolis, Maryland, for for 23 years. That's what she did. That's her vocation. That's her profession. And you would think, like, why would you want a server at a restaurant on your team? Well, she has connected me to so many people. She connected me to Pierce, which is the person that put on the event that I just was a panelist at the Miami Tech Week. I'm in Miami, mind you, doing my panelist thing, which I did talk a little bit about, this Law of Repulsion, which was cool. And then this girl comes up to me and says, I've heard of MyCore before. I met a woman named Cheryl. I'm like, oh, Cheryl, dude, she's such a beast. And she has a tattoo of your shield. I'm like, I know, right? So that stuck with her. And I was like, when was that? She was like, oh, my, this was years ago.
That's
and I'm
wild.
thinking, you remembered her out of all the people you've interacted with, because she has conviction. She has belief. She has passion. She has a freaking tattoo of our shield. I mean, that's a little bit cuckoo. In fact, the way he started off the panel, I kind of spoke to culture, and he was like, it was fresh on my mind too from our episode last week, and he was like, could you let everyone know here how it is that you were able to get a person on your team to get a tattoo of the MyCore shield? And then he hands me the mic, and I'm like, well, because we require it.
Yeah, it's mandatory. I've got it on my right butt cheek right now. So.
Right, exactly. But the point there being that, like, this is kind of back to the law of attraction, right? Like attracts like. Mm. You don't get what you want in this life. You get who you are. Right? And at a core basis, you and I happen to have some of the externals, the mustache, the bolder shoulders. What's up? Oh, let's go. Yeah. Just do it. Yeah. No, but it's not that has led to this moment, because in that room, there's an alignment between everyone there, and they look all different. They come from different, and this is not like some diversity program. Mm-hmm. This is an authentic, like, core value system that has attracted the right people, repelled the wrong people. And then you came into it, and I want to say something that I've been sharing behind your back. So
Ned is a dick.
No, and I don't know. Maybe I'm just taking a risk here, like live. Maybe I was wrong, but there was a moment when I had introduced you to the team, and then I realized we didn't have you on the agenda for the first day. I was like, that's stupid. Like, we just made this a big announcement. That's a miss. And then we went to lunch. We called that audible. Ken, you got your deck ready. You came up. And you absolutely crushed. There was this moment where I felt like you were a little bit nervous. And not nervous like, oh, I don't know what to say. I think you had to make a decision. Yeah. Am I going to be who they want me to be? or who I might want to be, or am I going to try to like echo Nathan, or am I going to be Ned fucking Arick?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you made a really conscious decision, and you were you. And I watched it like break through, and there was a shock factor because you're you, and I've inoculated him to the F word, so it's good. But it was like awesome, dude. I think that was like an epic moment. It was for us. I don't know if it was as much for you, but I really felt like you were kind of, nervous isn't the word, but you were just towing the line.
Yeah,
And then you were like,
for sure.
Boom, I'm either going to show them who I am right now and they're going to embrace me, or maybe this my core thing and Nathan Bourne thing isn't for me. I don't know if you had any awareness around that, but it was pretty cool to watch.
No, it's interesting because, like, you know, it was my like first time in front of everyone, and you know, there was this kind of just number one, there was an audible called an hour and a half
No
earlier
warning.
that it was just like, okay, cool. And it's funny, dude, because like I actually had like walked out of the room and Susan Marie had to come get me. So it was even more like, but what I think that is honestly like what you just said is the law of repulsion in play, because I think so often we walk into a situation and we try to chameleon to the situation, right? And what happens there is you and I, like, if when we first met, I had been like, yo, I'm just going to be this, like, hey, I'm a founder. What's up,
Nedrick.
bro? Yeah, like, yeah, whatever it was. And, like, I wasn't who I was.
Right.
We wouldn't be here right now.
No way.
But, like, the thing is you start to attract people to that version of you. And what happens is that you start to attract these people and you're like, then you start to look back like a year later and you're like, I don't like any of these people.
And most of all, you don't like yourself.
And yes. And so it's like in that scenario, it's like, you know, consciously, I absolutely wasn't like, you know, from the perspective of like, hey, I got to be soft. I got to do this. Because, you know, obviously we had done a lot of like, hey, Ned is.
They got a taste.
They got a taste. But then it was like, there was this decision that had to be made of like, am I going to go all in on this, put my chips on the table? And if people don't like me, I'm absolutely certain, actually, I know there were people in that room that didn't like me.
But they ended up loving you.
Yeah.
Even if they didn't like it, like it hurt so good. There were people that I know are like sweet, kind Midwesterners in there, because we have people from all over the country that just aren't used to that level of intensity that you and I bring. And I watched them buy into your leadership, and it was like really cool to watch.
Yeah. And I think that's the key, is like when you find out who you are and who you are at your core. Right. And that's where I said earlier, like, for a lot of you guys listening to this, it's not like, hey, go change your careers page to like, we don't like this. We don't like that. Like, this is, you know, I see that on like sales pages all the time where they're like, who's this for? Who's this not for?
Right. The
and
X's
it's like,
and the check marks.
Yeah. And it's just like, no. It has absolutely nothing to do with the words you put on paper, the emojis you use. It has everything to do with the authenticity of who you are, because what happens is you start to, and this is what's interesting about my core, as I'll say, is like attracts like, but authenticity attracts everyone. And I think from that perspective is like, as I was kind of like digesting that like attracts like, what I find is that like attracts like because I have to feel like I have to be a certain way in front of you. So you're only that way to me because I'm acting that way to you. And now we're just kind of stuck in this weird stalemate. Yeah. And now, I hired this SDR because he is attracted to this thing that we are, but it's not really who we are. Right. It's like this confusing thing. But when you put yourself out there from like a core presence and like come across authentically in your content, come across authentically in how you speak on podcasts and how you put yourself out into the world as an entrepreneur, as a salesperson, as a marketer, whatever it is, you start to attract real people who are coming to you with real problems, real issues, real values, and they align because they're on that frequency with you. And it's wild how you just start to, like, things start to happen and success starts to come your way and opportunities, because the people that are coming to you are actually aligned with you.
Right.
And that, I think, is the true law of attraction.
Right.
It's like, it's not about thinking or like, hey, we have to go be this like major company, right? Like we have to go IPO or we have to go get this investment. It's about, how do I get people that are aligned with who I am, aligned with our mission, our vision, our values, and they're going to come from all races, genders, creeds, religions.
That's the
It's
beauty
like,
of
yeah.
it. When you see the diverse nature of it, it will restore or even further empower your belief in humanity.
Yeah.
It would seem by throwing a word like repulsion or repelling in that you're being exclusive. You're actually being inclusive. It's just creating a narrow enough of a path to you that is full of some hurdles, some twists, some turns, so that by the time people get to you, they know that you aren't like freely sharing yourself, even though you are accessible. So this is something I think for maybe top tier leaders that are trying to navigate. How do I stay accessible? How do I stay relevant? But there's 24 hours in a day, right? And this is difficult to do because if you are attractive as a person, and not even to like in the public eye, but you're like, how do I respond to all these comments?
Yeah.
I've got 47 people that did the LinkedIn Mutual Admiration Society thing. And now I'm like, do I put AI to do that? Do I take precious time from my day-to-day? The answer is yes, you do.
Yeah.
If you want to connect with those people. But one thing I would just encourage people to do is like, let it chill for a second.
Yeah.
Let it sit. I joked about it because you sent me the message back in January and I was reading it to the team and I said, I read it because I wanted them to hear the story. And I said, this is Ned's message, January 23rd. And I looked you up, obviously, and I saw your following and I saw your background. And I was like, this is a guy I need to meet, like on the personal side, on the professional side. And I was like, dude, I'm going to respond to this guy in 4 days. Right?
Yeah.
And it's because I really was actually doing something that day. I'm sure of it.
Yeah.
And I don't keep my notifications on social media. It will suck me in. So I just I go there, I do my thing, I shut it out, I keep living my life,
and
I go back to it. The point in this is if the right people are the right people, and you're attracting them because you're so clear in your mind and so clear in your heart of who you are, why you exist, and what you do, time sort of disappears from it. And now you're not just looking at chronos, the chronological aspect of time. You're looking at kairos, which is like God's timing.
Yeah.
That perfect timing, right? And there has to be this sort of trusting of the process that, hey, you know what? When I can authentically respond to that, the timing will be right.
Yeah.
And who knows what transpired in 4 days? Maybe nothing. Maybe it was just the normal mundane aspects of life, but something happened, which then happened, which then happened, which then happened, right? And it's like, if you're aware of that, and just again, as a clarity point here, we're not suggesting that you should know who you are. I'm 36, you're 32. We're just getting started on this thing called life, right? But I know the core of it.
Yeah.
I know enough. I know enough to be dangerous when it comes to who I am. And then more importantly, we're inviting people in. I mean, you think about the Chairmen podcast, it's going to evolve. It's going to grow. It's going to change. It's going to morph. And that's when you're attracting your early adopters.
Yeah.
And if you can be authentic right out of the gate, those people will cross the chasm with you. They'll go into the majority and into the blow up and into the hockey stick and into the up and to the right. Yeah. But everyone is trying to build their messaging for the masses.
Yeah.
Because that's intuitive, but it's actually counterintuitive. You have to look for the people that go, oh, I heard that song when it was an indie film or on an indie film, or it was like a random open mic, and that dude blew up.
Yep.
Because right now somebody is not popular, not special, doesn't have the lights, camera, action.
Yeah.
And they're going to be the best thing that ever happened to music, to business, to art in like a year from now.
And I think it starts, though, one thing is it really does start with, you don't have to know your entire self. I don't think we as humans will ever know every part of who we are.
Well, we didn't make us. That's the thing too.
Yeah.
Like, I know you and I have the same faith as Christians. Like, I'm of the belief that if you want to know how the iPhone works, you should contact Apple. They created it.
Yeah.
So if I want to know who I am, I have to spend time with the big guy because he created me and fashioned us very special. And I know everyone has different beliefs around that, but like, you didn't make you. And your parents, especially your dad, didn't have a lot to do with it.
Yeah, I don't want to think about that.
Yeah, no, me either. Yeah.
But like, I think there is a piece around just like understanding at your core, like who you are as an individual. And I think that there could be people listening to this going like, okay, cool, like whatever. Maybe you're just not on our level. You're not as good as us. No, but I think like to get tactical in this for you all, it really is just a matter of spending time and understanding who the hell you are.
And
like,
you know
what
too,
the hell
man?
you want.
You haven't gathered enough evidence. So
that is true. Yeah,
right? Like,
for sure.
I like to sometimes think of life and business and all the things like a court case. I actually thought I wanted to go to law school before I got stung by the entrepreneurial bug. I mean, I was at Penn, could have gone to Wharton, but thought I wanted to go to law school. So I actually was in the College of Arts and Sciences. And so I kind of like did mock trial and knew about law, which we all have watched enough television to know what a court case looks like, right?
Yeah.
So if you were being charged with the thing, entrepreneur, leader, mover, shaker, thought leader.
It could even be piece of shit. Like,
And this is really important too. Like attracts like. These things are not good or bad. Mm-hmm. It's really all about continuity. It's all about alignment. It's all about congruency. I used to watch a show called The Blacklist. Did you ever watch that show?
Yeah, I did. Yeah,
it's pretty dope, right? Yeah. And Raymond Reddington is the main character. He's on the America's Most Wanted list. And he's a badass, right? So he ends up coming to the FBI and saying, hey, I've got this blacklist of criminals that you don't even know exist. He kind of negotiates a deal. And then he's like the puppeteer for the government, for everyone. He's just running shit. Well, he's like a mass murderer coming into this moment. And then throughout the show, which it's many seasons, he kills, I mean, if you add it up, you probably Google it, he kills like 300 people. And he kills them at point blank. And anytime somebody crosses him, he's unforgiving, ruthless, even though you love the guy the whole time. Now, here's what is interesting. He's consistent. So even though you're sitting there as a rational, non-murderous human being watching it, if he were to not shoot Ned, the guy that crossed him, right in the forehead, you'd be pissed.
Yeah.
You'd be sitting there like, no, kill that mother effer. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you go, well, okay, it's not good to kill people. It's not good to watch shows about killing people. But I need to like finish this episode and get back to my real life. And if you throw me all off, Raymond Reddington, writers of The Blacklist, you're going to mess my shit up, because in this chaotic, variable life, I need some constants.
Yeah.
And you buy into his character because he consistently kills them every single time without fail.
Dude, that's good.
Right? So people try to moralize this. Mm-hmm. They try to make it like good or bad or right or wrong. Obviously choose right. Don't go like, no.
There are some objective rights and wrongs.
Right. But just meaning like be consistent.
Yeah,
be
that's
consistent.
A good way of putting it.
That's how you repel.
Yeah.
Thus attract. So yesterday, and by the way, speaking of just real time, I'm gonna have to go in a second because I'm gonna get my daughter to an eye appointment.
Oh, for sure.
And I'm realizing, going, shit, I'm just gonna be late. So we got like 5 minutes. But yesterday, you and I took an appointment, and going into that appointment, it was like, I don't really know where this is going to go.
Let's just.
And the guy we met with was like a nice dude. Like, who knows? Maybe he's devious, but he didn't have like the dark side.
Something tells me he's a good dude.
Yeah, he's like a super good dude. Fooled me if not.
Yeah.
And like you and I are, we got like our shit, and our upbringing and all this stuff. And there was just like this moment in the interaction where I was like, oh yeah, remember lead with who and everything you do. And I kind of just like stepped into who I am. And I don't know, I said something ridiculous or silly.
Yeah.
And I could have just easily like mirrored and matched his way.
Yeah.
But I feel like we were authentic in who we are. And then you had called me afterward. And
yeah, I told you it's your superpower, dude. Because it is. It's like, it really, I think the biggest thing that you do, I think it's consistency, right? Like we talked on the phone. It's like, dude, you just got to be a silly goose, bro. You just got to be silly. You got to have silly goose time, silly bro. Goose, it's like every time I see you, I'm like, Nathan's having a silly goose time, dude.
It keeps the pressure from my head freaking exploding.
Yeah, and I think like that's the key. Even just like wrapping this up is repelling people is about you being consistently you. Being consistently and authentically you. And that means writing consistently and authentically you, building a business that is consistently and authentically you. And because here's the thing, at the end of the day, people actually don't give a shit that you sell an AI product or that you sell people operations advisory or digital marketing, whatever it is, they are attracted to you.
People by people.
People by people. It is the human to human. And I think we got so wrapped up from like, I only got into the world, of business in 2015, but I look at like 2015 to 2020, where it was like just B2B, B2C, direct to consumer, whatever it was. And I always heard people, and they were always older individuals that were like, sales is human to human. I was like, whatever, boomer. Nah, I'm selling to this business, But as I've like grown in my career, I've realized that just the network that I've been able to build, I know people that have bought from me that continue to talk to me, not because I'm at the company that I was at, or that the level I was at or whatever it may be. It's because I was me. And they were attracted to me. And so as
you've been consistent, like Raymond Reddington, they've watched you go from this company to this venture to this, and they're going, oh, I see the continuity here.
Yeah.
Something I wanted to insert quickly, too, because this is good news. If you are repelling people, you're not sending them off into the abyss.
No.
There's somebody else that they align with that attracts them.
Yeah.
Right? So, like, being repulsive and repelling is not about kicking everyone out of your life and only taking the good ones. It's about freeing those people up. And if you're a charismatic person, if you've got the faculties, as the great philosopher Spider-Man's uncle said,
whatever his name is,
Peter
Uncle
Mr. Parker,
Spider-Man,
whatever his name is. With great power comes great responsibility. So this is that sort of sheathed sword as well, where you have to be like very careful to not manipulate by way of shape-shifting, mirroring and matching, being a chameleon. Because what will happen is you will fool them into thinking they found their person.
Yeah.
And then they're like, honey, I met this guy, and he's just the coolest, and I think we're going to do something together. And you're like, no, we aren't. Mm-hmm. I was just matching you for the day.
Yeah.
That's a dangerous game, and it's freaking wrong. That is flat out wrong. And I think that's like there's levels to this shit, right? Where you have to work through the I'm likable, I'm charismatic, people will buy from me, and get to this authentic place, because then you can re-energize and renew on a regular basis the energy to keep doing it. Otherwise, you will gas out, because this character you're playing can't.
I was going to say, is like you actually, when you are authentically, consistently, you don't have to re-energize as much. You don't have to continue to refuel, because it's just who you are. And so I think just the message to everyone here in today is don't be late to pick up your daughter for an eye appointment, number one. Right. But number two, it really is just a matter of be consistent, be authentically you, and repel the wrong people and be okay with it, because that's how you're going to grow a massive legacy and change the trajectory of your last name.
That's so good. And it's a two-way street. not only repel, be repelled.
Be repelled, yeah.
Like read it and go, not for me.
Yeah.
You know what
Nope.
I mean? Like see it, watch it, observe it, and go, not for me.
We should do an episode on the word no, because it is a great word. So
yeah, we'll
Cool.
do that. Good stuff today, man.
stuff.
Episode 2 of the Chairman. Love taking these moments out of our regular grind and just checking in. So much love, guys. Peace.
see you guys.